夠人啦。咁
Good morning. We have formed a quorum. A paper has been issued since the last meeting, and that is a CB 2846/1213/01. It's a letter from Hong Kong Private Nursing Home Owners Association requesting the panel to hold a joint meeting with the panel on Manpower to understand and seek solutions to problems currently encountered by the trade and the relevant deputations. I believe members have read this. And then the next item, items for discussion at the next meeting. And we have a CB 937/1213/01 and 937/1213/02. So please take a look, members. And then for the next meeting, routine meeting, it will be held on the 13th of May 2013 at 10:45 in room 3. The government has proposed 2 items, and that is additional provision, financial provision for the food assistance, and also additional allowance to be given to those on Social Security. The additional provisions are proposed by the administration. They are here. They are going to come here to listen to our views. I don't think they will take a long time. Food assistance and recipients of Social Security. Maybe we should consider whether we would like to receive deputations. We did this in the past, but apart from these 2 items, what do members think? Do we want to take on more on the agenda? If members have no specific proposals here, well, I would just put these 2 on the agenda. And then I will talk to the deputy chairman. Because in June, the administration will respond to our proposals on long-term social welfare. Mr. Tang, Guangdong scheme is said that it could be launched in the middle of this year, but we haven't discussed this in this term. Maybe we should discuss the Guangdong scheme before we retire for the summer. Mr. Matthew Zhang said a few words on this in relation to his work plan. I know NGOs are also concerned about this. I understand that many members have spoken on this, and they are very concerned about this. So do we want to take this up in the next meeting, or shall we leave it to June and give the administration some more time to work on it? Mr. Tang? I don't think we should mix up the long-term welfare program and Guangdong scheme. Time will not be sufficient. Of course, the 2 proposed items for the administration would require only a little time. The original plan is to do it in the 2nd quarter. All right? If members agree, then we ask the administration to cover this one, apart from the 2 proposed by the government. We have 2 other items, food assistance, additional allowance, and in addition, do we want to do Guangdong scheme as well? Sorry, I've just arrived. You are talking about items for the next meeting, I suppose? What else apart from food assistance? In relation to the budget, additional allowance, additional payment for Social Security recipient. And the present proposal is to discuss Guangdong scheme additionally. Originally, it was slotted for the 2nd quarter. Okay. What about other members? Comments? All right, so we have 3 items. Mr. Matthew Zhang, as I've said, has promised that for the long-term social welfare plan. A report will be given to us in June, and some NGOs have asked about the progress. I said that there was one previous meeting on this, and they're anxious to do this. Maybe we can also talk about July. Maybe before we take a break in summer, they should come back before July on the review of the disability allowance. They said 9 months would not be sufficient, and now it's 9 months. All right, we have 2 more meetings before July. So anything from the Deputy Chairman? All right, so 3 items. Thank you. Third item, latest progress with the Child Development Fund. Please invite the officials to come in. Mr. Tang? Yes? Well, I just wanted to press the button that I would like to speak on this item.
Good
morning. I'd like to welcome the Permanent Secretary and her team. Over to you, Permanent Secretary, for an introduction. Good morning. We are here to report to members the progress with the Child Development Fund and also recent improvements to the scheme. I will be using a PowerPoint to repeat some of the important data about Child Development Fund. Here we're talking about the disadvantaged children in the age group of 10 to 16, particularly children in CSSA recipient families, and also those who are receiving full subsidy under the Student Assistance Scheme. And their family income will not be more than 75% of the family median income. And we want to set a personal development plan for them to implement. We also want to encourage them to save regularly. And through this, we hope they can strengthen their relationship with their parents. And through a mentor scheme, a mentor that is a friend would help the children to foster positive attitudes and to build up a useful social network. As we know, there are many mentorship schemes, but here this would incorporate an element of personal development planning and regular saving. Mainly the child and the family would have to save up $200 a month, and this will be matched 1-to-1. In other words, $400 will be saved every month, and a $3,000 special grant will be given after 2 years by the government. So altogether, $12,600. Before that is accomplished, the child has to set a personal development plan to meet short-term and long-term development goals. And then they will be guided by a mentor to accomplish this goal. And they can use the $12,600 to fulfill the goal. We have completed 3 batches, 7 projects, which was completed in May 2012. The second batch completed in September will be completed in September 2012 with 15 projects. And the third one will be completed in the first half of 2015 with 18 projects. For the second batch, we have ethnic minority children, and for the third batch, children living in the cubicles. Altogether, 4,000 children will be benefited by the 3 batches of projects. We don't have any hard objectives. This is meant to be an alternative to traditional mode of offering assistance to children. Therefore, we have a special arrangement for assessment. In 2008, we commissioned the Poly University's Applied Social Science faculty to conduct a tracking survey. The consultancy report has been uploaded to our website. Members who are interested in this may have access to or take a look on our website. The purpose is to lay a foundation for future personal and career development. For the first and second batches, 99% and 98.4% of them completed the saving program. And for the first batch, 97.8% and 98.7% of them were successful in meeting the saving target. So in terms of savings, the projects are very successful. Through the planning, these children would have more confidence in building a future for themselves, and they are less likely to break rules, and they are more likely to make the best use of available time. Through the mentorship scheme, they have been able to build up a social network and expand their horizons. And also parents are involved apart from the mentors. We have also allocated some funds to NGOs so that they can enhance their IT equipment through their participation in the project. We have proposed some improvement measures. For example, more resources should be provided for quality training for mentors and parents. So at least 2+2 or 4 activities should be provided by mentors and parents. That's the existing arrangements. And for the children, at least 10 activities. And we would like to add one more over what is now provided. So 5 for mentors and parents and 10 for children. The maximum provision is 15,000 per child, and we want to increase this by 1/3 to 20,000 per child. Second, we would step up publicity to get in touch with government departments, alumni, and corporations to identify mentors. And we're also going to provide more administrative provisions, and by 1/3 to 2,000 instead of the present 1,500. On top, we have also explored the way forward. For some NGOs, they think that a 3-year funding cycle may not be very ideal in terms of resource allocation and training of mentors, because there's less certainty. So we'd like to have a 1+1 model introduced, and that is, if they are doing a good job in the first 3 years, they will automatically be given another 3 years. Of course, provided that they are interested in continuing, they will be getting 6 years, so that experience can be accumulated, resources can be properly allocated. We'll take into account the fact that experienced NGOs are limited in number, and these children are also going to schools, so we may wish to give some thought to developing some school-based projects. and the Child Development Fund has set up a working group to look into this. We await their recommendations and comments in due course. On the 14th of March, we met some NGOs, some of which were involved, some of which were not involved in the Child Development Fund projects, to chart the way forward. The overall response was positive. We would like to launch the fourth batch in the third quarter of 2013. This time we would like to have 20 projects, and for each project there will be 115 children participants, and altogether we are going to benefit 2,300 children. As I've said, in summary, under the new scheme, administrative overhead for each child will increase from 1,500 to 2,000. Training activities for mentors and parents will increase from 4 to 5. The cost for each, the provision for each child will increase from 15,000 to 20,000. We're also going to step up publicity and also to consider adopting school-based projects. From our own observation and from the consultant's report, we know that this project offers us a new methodology over what we are doing in the traditional mode, so that we can help disadvantaged children from modest families to change their experience and opportunity, improve their opportunities, and to promote social mobility and reduce cross-generation poverty. Welcome views from members.
One cup here first. Am I timed? Yes. Okay, 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes. For this plan, I've got some views. When it was first launched, is the Poverty Commission's proposal, and there was two plans. One of it was the Child Development Fund. I definitely would appreciate new ways that do not involve direct involvement of resources, but ways that are to help improve grassroots families. Particularly, social workers have done a lot in that regard. But if we are only trying to solve the situation of intergenerational poverty through this plan, my impression is, the last term of government or the last administration under Donald Tsang, it's clear that the poverty gap is a difficult issue to tackle. I find that the last administration lacked the resolve to tackle the problem of poverty gap. So I hope that this time we will not just have empty talk on how to improve the situation, but we need to face up to the issue of wealth gap now. Back to this plan. Well, since we've commissioned PolyU to do an assessment, and the study show that the plan was successful in creating favorable conditions for the children. I think that's key. Favorable conditions for resolving intergenerational poverty. What conditions are we talking about? Could they become part of a policy rather than just trying to get things done through NGOs or various plans? Can we incorporate these conditions into policy proposals? Not just under the remit of welfare, it may involve various kinds of policies. Can we list out the various conditions so that the government can follow up on them and create, actual policies instead of just benefiting 2,000 children? This is something beyond what the plan covers, but I'm more concerned. I know the money spent isn't a lot, but NGOs do really want to see things done. Can we turn these favorable conditions into real policies that can tackle the issue of intergenerational poverty? And secondly, for the second and third stage of the plan, ethnic minorities made up a very small number of beneficiaries. The percentage was about 3 or 5%, but we need to take note of 2 points, particularly South Asians. South Asians definitely have a much larger poor population than Chinese population because of language and culture issues. These group of people may not know where they can find help. And there are also the problems of values about savings and so forth. So these South Asian people have different values from Chinese people. So I hope that we can expand this plan more to South Asian families and children, because if we don't tackle the situation of poverty among them, that will grow into an acute issue in the coming decade.
多謝主席。咁
Who will answer? Thank you for your question. We have looked at carefully the PolyU's report, particularly in paragraph 23 of that report. It says that, similar to what member has said, it says that poverty is not just about the lacking of material goods, but also the lacking of immaterial things. And for intergenerational poverty, it's mainly due to a culture of poverty, lifestyles that have been passed down from generation to generation. Therefore, we do need to bring in an adult that's unrelated to the family, to the child, and to inject new elements of thinking into the child's culture so as to create a favorable condition. And a good mentor can also broaden the perspectives of young people and help in actually mediating difficulties or problems facing the small children and to foster the healthy growth of a child. So it's very similar to what member has just said. All the favorable conditions, what are they? You can see that they include a regular savings plan, personal objectives, a mentorship relationship, and also participation in meaningful activities. So how can we turn them into policies? This is something that we will look into further later on. Thank you. Your time's up. But will you provide us with a written submission on a paper on how you can turn them into policies? Yes. Whatever information we have, ideas we have, we'll share them with you. Next one is Fernando Jur. 5 minutes each, please. Of course, we're very pleased to see that the Child Development Fund has seen initial positive results. I need to declare that I'm one of the consultants for the PolyU research team. I was not directly involved in the research, but they did ask me to give opinions. And the results were positive. That is, the plan created favorable conditions. But whether it managed to help people climb out of poverty, we can't see the result in that regard yet. But whether for the children's social skills, savings habits, or links with people who are not their family members, I think all these networks are positive. But Chairman, since 2008, since it was established, even for the third batch of the fund, which lasts till 2015, the number of beneficiaries is about 4,000. Yet, in Hong Kong, poor children in Hong Kong, according to the Council of Civil Service and Hong Kong Institute of Education study, there were about 270,500 people, children who are poor. So I find it regretful that the Child Development Fund, after so many years, it has been seen as of positive value. So why can't we expand it so that more people can benefit? Looking at the figures, you can see that, the The latest batch involves the most number of people, more than 2,000. But relatively speaking, it is only tackling a very small number of those in need of help. And also, ethnic minorities, there are only 35 of them, and 60 people with disabilities who were helped by the fund. So compared to the overall needs, these dozens of people actually are a very, very small number. So does the government have any plan to expand the fund further instead of just limiting it, to a few thousand people every few years? On average, just a few hundred people are helped every year. If we continue this way, I think this is really, really a very minor project. Permanent Secretary, thank you, Chairman and members. And thank you for actually providing consultancy for the research team. I've actually looked at the views of the consultants, and I found that we could expand the number of beneficiaries to 2,300. But there is an actual constraint. We want to do more, but the number of NGOs participating is limited. We do want to involve NGOs that have been involved in youth services in the past 5 years. And across Hong Kong, there are just about 50-odd NGOs in that category. And last March, I met with some NGOs, particularly some who had not participated. That is organizations beyond the 18 who are currently involved. So the expansion of the scheme is limited by the number of NGOs eligible to participate. And the consultants also give us the view that for 100 to 150 people in the scheme, that's an ideal figure. It may not be the ideal to include more people in the scheme. But I do agree with members that, with what you said. So on the one hand, we're trying to encourage more NGOs to do the 1+1 scheme, and for NGOs that have accumulated experience, we hope that they can play a bigger role. And on the other hand, we hope that we'll try to adopt a school-based approach. If we can utilize school resources, then I'm sure that the scheme will be even more beneficial. So as members said, we do hope to expand the fund so that more children can benefit. Yeah, Chairman, I do hope that you can expand it on a much larger scale. And also, the fund has only been held for a few years, and we don't see how effective it is in lifting people out of poverty. So will the government lay down a long-term longitudinal study? A study that not just cover 1 to 2 years. Can we have a longitudinal study? Okay, our time's up. I'm sure you will follow up on the matter, right? Tam Yu Chung next. Chairman, I've got 2 points to make. Firstly, paragraph 10 of the paper, it points out that some of the children involved in the scheme cannot save $200 a month. So there's a need to adjust the yearly savings target. So I'd like to find out, have you, for these particular children, has the government tried to find out about the financial situations of their families so that, additional support outside of the fund can be provided? And also, we found that the incentives from the government is about $3,000, but the mentorship training, parents training, etc., costs about $22,000. So that gives people the impression that it seems that the money are spent unproportionately. So can you think about increase the amount of government incentive? Any response from the administration? Permanent Secretary? Thank you. We are concerned that, children, whether they can keep the monthly savings habit. We know that in the first and second batches, 30 people could not reach the target, mainly because the families were in financial difficulties. We did inform the NGOs to ask them to give the families help, but the families were unwilling to be helped. So we did try to help those impoverished families, but some of these families would rather lower the savings target, of 200. And NGOs and some families accepted help from the NGO, but some didn't. And some organizations are providing youth services, and they are very well aware of the services available here. And they might refer various services to the families in need. And also on Mr. Tam's question on the $3,000 incentive, actually, we actually have got two sides of views. One is that children think that it's difficult to save $200 a month.
So we don't want to change the amount and the matching arrangement. And it may be appropriate for the government to give $3,000, but of course we can consider giving a little bit more, as suggested by the Manpower. Views from members will be taken back, and we'll consider whether we can increase the amount by a little bit. Okay, thank you. Please consider the suggestions. Mr. Peter Zhang, I want to get some figures. The age group is 10 to 16. You haven't started the fourth batch. But who do you prefer, younger ones or older ones within the age group? And the maximum that you can save is $12,600. If we are talking about 12 or 13-year-olds, this is a big sum. But if a 16 to 18, because they could start at 16 and then a few years later they will be 18, then this sum is not big to them. So can I get some figures about the ratio of the age profile? The first batch has been completed. What have they been doing to fulfill some of their goals? And now there have been 4 batches and or some 6,000. How much money has been spent and how much is left unspent? Previously, I learned that there were $200 to $300 million that remained unspent. And then to follow up the question raised by Mr. Tam, you spend $20,000 for each child on training, activities, and so on and so forth. Where did the NGOs spend? What areas did they spend money on? It's $20,000 per child, and for each project it can be $2 million, not a small sum. So how are they spending the money on? For the fourth batch, the amounts will be adjusted to $20,000 and $2,000 for administrative costs. So for 3 years, $200,000 or $70,000 per year. Well, would the NGOs be really making a loss if they devote a staff member on this? It seems that the figures are rather unbalanced. On the spending by the NGOs, I'll defer to Mr. Fung. I'll take other questions now. The age group of 10 to 16. Well, last time we consider views expressed by this panel. Therefore, the lowest threshold was reduced from 12 to 10, and we have a 20 10 to 13, it's 19.6 in the third batch. In the fourth, I see it's 48.8. For the second batch, it's in the first batch of those in 14 to 16, it's 71%, but for the second batch, 56%. So we have more in the age group of 10 to 13. So we try to make adjustments so that it's a 50-50. $12,600 is neither a big nor a small sum. And some of them cannot use it in the third year, but for older children, they may find it inadequate. But with assistance from NGOs and mentors and parents, these children are pragmatic. They would like to get training, get enrolled on training courses, or they may want to get a driving license when they grow up, or they may want to be involved in skills enhancement activities. As for the administrative cost for the fourth batch, well, I'm grateful to the NGOs on this score, because they have to devote their resources as well, so that given the small administrative costs, we do not provide dedicated administrative costs. They need to deploy their people to work with us. So, Madam Chair, if I may, I would like to express my appreciation to them. I don't think we have time for you to further explain. Maybe you can do this in responding to other questions. Mr. Leung Chi-Chang. Up to Mr. Leung Chi-Chang, we give each member 5 minutes. Then others, Mr. Albert Ho and me, will be given 3 minutes. But this is a good concept. The idea of a child development fund is a good one through the cooperation between government and NGOs, and we also leverage on the business sector in providing activities and mentorship for these children and their parents, and also to encourage savings and improve communication between family members. You have come up with some conclusions on the projects. Do you think that the program can actually promote social mobility or effective in fostering positive values and habits? You said that this is the conclusion. The conclusion is positive from the Poly University's assessment, but we haven't got details here. Maybe it would be better for the conclusions to be presented to us for our information. Second, I want to talk about the numbers of participants. The numbers are important in assessing whether it's successful. If for a few years you've just 1,000 something, 2,000 participants, in terms of ratio, it's a small ratio. You're going to increase the number of participants further. But according to the permanent secretary, out of the 50-odd eligible NGOs, only 18 are willing to participate, and the ratio is low. So how can you induce or attract more NGOs to participate? I think the administrative cost is important about this. If they have to redeploy resources from other channels, then I would think that they are doing this as a voluntary service. I think you must do something about the administrative provision and support you provide to the NGOs. And what about mentors? Do all mentors provide the service after getting the training? Mentors can help the children improve their life goal. So it's crucial. The mentor is a crucial figure. After training these mentors, and we ask them to act as such, they may drop out halfway. So what are you doing to train these mentors? And what kind of support do you provide to NGOs in recruiting mentors? Permanent Secretary, as the member puts it, the success of this program is due to assistance from various quarters, government, NGOs, business sector, and mentors. As for the consultancy report, is available on the website. The consultants look at the first batch. Do we need to take follow-up action to gauge whether the program is or is not successful? Do we need to conduct a more long-term, longitudinal study? Well, we'll consider this later. And I've mentioned that the numbers are restrained by certain factors, including capacity of NGOs. We have been in constant communication with NGOs. These NGOs are positive from what we gather in the latest meeting. Well, we may not be able to meet all their requirements, but they are positive about the proposed 1/3 increase in the administrative provision. So if there are more advancement measures, we'll consider them favorably. We certainly want the NGOs to recruit and train more mentors. My views are similar to those of Dr. Fernando Cheung and Mr. Leung Chi-hong. First of all, I see this as a positive program. I can't remember which program it was. I saw in a program that through a mentorship scheme, we can expand the horizon of the child, and of course, it's also good for the mentor. So from what we have gathered, it seems to be a good scheme. While I understand that there are problems with NGOs providing proper support. We have more than 200,000 children in poverty. SOCO has been asking how we can help these children develop. I hope the government can be more generous. I'm not asking you to give 300 million at one go. I want you to set clear goals. Talk to Hong Kong CSS. And this is not a one-way street. We are not just helping the children. Those offering help can also experience changes. For example, I've involved some Band 1 school students in helping the disadvantaged, and the students also benefited from the experience. So why can't the administration set a goal of reaching out to the 200,000 children in poverty? You can provide the funding, and we can talk to the Hong Kong CSS. One of the three goals is to expand their horizon, to enhance their communication, and then to change their perspectives. So this is my suggestion. I hope Permanent Secretary can do something in response to our comments. Maybe next time you can present up with a plan. I hope you can expand the program. That's what I would like to suggest. Please consider this. Madam Chair, you are correct that those offering assistance are also benefited by the experience. We also understand that there is a limit to the number of children who can participate. I'll talk to the relevant parties and the Hong Kong CSS, and then I'll come back to report if we are in a position to take on board some of the suggestions made by Hong Kong CSS. Mr. Albert Ho, like many colleagues, in terms of the concept and values and objectives of this program, we are all positive about them. But I didn't expect that the scale was so low. $300 million was approved in 2008. We thought after 2 to 3 years you are going to expand it. It seems that you still have some money left after 3 years. $2 million per project. If we have 40, it's just $80 million. Or maybe it's $2.8 million per project. So you are going to spend something like $100 million. And you have benefited 4,000 with a potential pool of 200 children in poverty. There's no reason why we are so mean in carrying out such meaningful projects. You have spent the money for 3 years, still there's some money left. I know there are more participants and the amounts will be increased, but that's not in line with our expectation. We are talking about a period from 2008 to 2015. You are being too conservative and mean. You have so much in surplus, and you have to give tax rebates and so on and so forth. So why not be more generous to these disadvantaged children? With higher amounts of funding, administrative costs will be relatively lower in proportion. So on the one hand, I appreciate the value of the program, but I just don't think it should be on such a small scale. The scope should be expanded. So please don't hesitate. Just ask the NGOs to do it, and there should be regular reports from them. We should help them more extensively. We know that this is no solution to the poverty. We know that there's a serious welfare gap in Hong Kong. The amount of money won't be sufficient to buy, say, an air ticket. But it's not just about money. It's also about person-to-person communications, expanding their horizons, and also getting the habit of savings. It's not about solving poverty problems, but the government should expand the scope. And if there is a well-established and mature program, by all means, ask the NGOs to do it extensively.
P.S. Yes, I explained earlier, we're not being stringent, or not willing to spend money, but we would see what more views there are and what we can do further. Last one, simple question. Encouraging children to have the savings habit and to foster their long-term development. These all are very positive. Mainly, I want to find out about, just that I know PS said that they would expand the program, but there are also the limitation, from the number of NGOs participating. You are thinking of getting schools involved. Okay, as for schools involvement, your proposal of a school-based approach, what response have you got so far from schools? And have you got any concrete objectives in relation to the number of schools to be involved? P.S. Yeah, I think Mr. Poon's question actually was addressed earlier. We have a small group comprising several unofficial dedicated members who are in talks with schools. Schools are very busy themselves, and principals need time to understand more about the project. So we're now waiting for a report from the small group. But what I've heard so far is that they do want to carry out a pilot scheme for 1 or 2 schools first before expanding it further. But the small group is still exploring with school principals the way ahead. Once we've got more information, once the steering committee has got more information, we'll get back to you on this. So there's a possibility that in the future, schools may take part in large numbers, or very few may take part. And if few NGOs and schools are willing to take part, then what the government would do with that? Yes. Well, we are looking at the situation carefully. On the one hand, we will try to get the NGOs have more confidence in the scheme. The 1+1 scheme can actually help improve resources and long-term planning for the NGOs. So we continue to explore options of collaborating, and our small group will also discuss with schools and see how willing they are to take part in the scheme. Maybe they'll be interested. We don't know what schools' responses will be yet. Chairman also asked us to talk to the Hong Kong Council of Social Service. Definitely, we will discuss all these ideas at our steering committee to see how we can actually improve the plan further. And I know that members are very concerned about the scale of the project, so we would try to see whether there are any ways for us to further enhance the plan. So that's the end of this item. Thank you, the administration and the officials here. Let me reiterate again that I hope that you will give us your paper as soon as possible, so that when we discuss long-term social welfare policy in June, subject to the consent of members, I think we might discuss on possible expansion of this project. So next item is on the partnership fund for the disadvantaged. May I invite the administration to come in? Good morning, Mrs. Mack. Can you take us through the paper? Thank you, Chairman, members. So briefly, I'll tell you about the implementation of the Partnership Fund for the Disadvantaged. We were at NACHCO earlier to introduce the fund to you and to report to you on the progress. The latest is that, as mentioned in paragraph 3 of the paper, by February this year, 541 NGOs have been funded by the fund, implementing 573 welfare projects. The matching grant totaled $247.07 million. What pleased us is that there's an overwhelming participation by the commercial sector. More than 900 companies have been involved. Some are really just local businesses, small businesses. And in the latest scheme, we actually have seen an increase in the number of applications, and also there have been more actually involvement from the commercial sector in terms of the partnership scheme. So we're now handling the 8th round application, which actually came to an end in February. Now we are vetting the applications, 152 altogether of them. They actually involve corporate sponsorship totaling more than $18 million. We hope that we can approve all these applications. After our last briefing, we have come up with some improvement measures, taking into account members' views that for a small amount of application, the administrative procedures can be simplified so that applicants can get the project up and running soon. And therefore, we have simplified the $10,000 application minimum fee. We are very concerned whether the money is spent fitting the purpose of the fund. In 0708, we did an evaluating study, and the result showed that, and we did report back to you back then on the results of the study. And in September 2010, we carried out a second round of evaluative study. And the consultants, as mentioned in paragraph 11, gave us some recommendations. They are listed in the paragraph, and they included giving priority consideration for project proposals with outcome evaluation, and also giving priority consideration for project proposals demonstrating promising sustainability and strategic partnerships with the business corporations. And the third recommendation is that we can consider mobilizing more or encouraging more district-based promotional activities. And all these three recommendations have been incorporated into the latest round of applications. We hope to receive members' views today on how we can further promote the fund and to make continuous improvement to the fund. Thank you. We expected to finish this part on 11:55. So last item overran, so I hope that we need limit members to 3 minutes, your speech to 3 minutes each. Fernando Zhang, well, we injected more money into the original 200 million fund 8 years ago. Now 8 years have passed. I think that the speed and the scale of processing applications should be enhanced. And many NGOs also told us that in the process of application, they mainly face the issue of the principles, relating to the principles of, approving the applications. That is the principle of whether the project can have long-term cost effectiveness and sustainability. But that's difficult for many organizations because, some, for example, those who are helping single-parent families, they've created a lot of job opportunities for these families, like accompanying people to see doctors and so forth, go to clinics and so forth, or even accompanying women in the first month after they're giving birth. When these proposals were submitted to the fund, the application was made very much on the basis whether they had the support of the corporate sector. I know corporate support is very important, but for small organizations or for a district body, there would be very little interest from the corporate sector. And even though these projects help giving these families more work experience, their applications were not approved. So I hope that you can, Deputy Director, not just consider whether a project can be profitable. Because if all projects to be approved have to be profitable, then this violates the original idea of helping the underprivileged. This will make things difficult for these organizations. Deputy Director, thank you, Mr. Zhang, for your view. Let me reiterate here that the fund itself, when it was set up, one of its main purposes was to involve the corporate sector more. Therefore, Dr. Zhang asked whether we would consider applications without the participation of the corporate sector. But I'm sorry to say that we can't. We have to. We can't approve projects without corporate sector. I know some organizations may have difficulties in finding corporate sponsorship. Therefore, we have staged briefing sessions inviting NGO representatives and people from the corporate sector, to try to match them together. And we've also asked our district social welfare officers to provide help to organizations. Sorry, your time's up. One more point. This is not profitable projects, so we will not consider whether a project is profitable. But that's the impression that many organizations get. Next one, Tang Ka-Piu. I think for the operation of the funds, the sector has given a lot of views, but I'm more concerned about how you can encourage the corporate sector to be more involved. Just in the response for financial estimates, companies with with profit tax of more than $10 million, number 4,970. So can I ask you, do you have an indicator on, for example, how many large companies are actually involved in the fund? Would you set up an indicator for that and also publicize the figure? Of course, we do want to see an increase in profits tax, but if you want to get the companies to keep their profits and invest or plow the money back into society, then that's fine. But I hope to see that, since we believe that low tax can encourage companies to do more charities, then can you tell me how many companies should be involved in charitable acts? Can you announce how many companies were involved in the past and how much tax did they pay? Were they the most profitable companies in Hong Kong? Would you have this goal of, for example, enhancing by a rate of 10% the number of companies, profitable companies that are actually helping the disadvantaged?
Deputy Director, thank you, Mr. Tang, for your question. In the area of promoting corporate participation, we have been doing a lot. We have been making the presentations to chambers of commerce, and we have a small group on volunteer work in which the corporate sector is involved. And we have a website, a web page on this particular fund, and on which we would announce our business partners and their involvement in the partnership fund. In the first round, there were only 80 corporations involved. In the third round, 127 new corporate participants. Are we going to set an indicator at this stage? At this stage, we don't want to set a hard target, because apart from the corporate sector, NGOs are another important partner. So what we want to do is to encourage cooperation between NGOs and corporations. On our website, we announce the approved projects. And when NGOs want to get partners from the corporate sector, they can also use the same platform. Are you going to concentrate your efforts on these big corporations which are earning the highest profits? Yes. Mr. Leung Chi-Chang. Thank you, Madam Chair. Concerning this partnership fund for the disadvantaged, just like the Child Development Fund, this one has achieved good results. I have the two sets of figures in mind. In the recent 7th round, or the 8th round rather, the 8th round applications, we have seen a very substantial increase, but that is an increase of 34%. 84 NGOs were involved. 58 of them are non-subvented. Or 58% of them are non-subvented. So maybe the Deputy Director can tell us why the subvented NGOs, that is their staff are paid by the government, are not showing a lot of interest, while those who are non-subvented are more eager to seek corporate sponsorship. As for the applications involving the $100,000, there are more applications this round. Is it because SMEs are more willing now to support such welfare programs? Deputy Director, well, the figures in paragraph 7 must be read together with figures in the previous years, because in a previous year maybe some subvented NGOs have applied to be involved in some other projects, and those projects may last for more than a year. Now we have more non-subvented NGOs. I think this is due to the publicity and the fact that we have been sharing our experience with more NGOs. As for there are more applications involving $100,000 or less, it's because of the streamlined procedure for smaller projects. Well, we have been getting more local small businesses, and in one project there were 10 such businesses involved in a project. We want to seek district participation for such district programs as well. I think the SWD should issue commendation letters to those participating businesses. Thank you for your suggestion. In a sharing session last October, we took the opportunity to commend the participating businesses. Mr. Leung Kok-hong, 3 minutes. Before the French Revolution, we have these indulgences sold by the church. You donate money, then your crimes are absolved. So this is curious. Under government policy, you use tax money, and implement government policies. And now you want to have low tax rates, and you hope that the businesses will be kind enough to give money. It's a waste of time. I think the businesses have this theory. They want to give money, but the government is not doing well in spending money. So you should set up a fund instead of raising funds through taxation. Look at Mr. Li Ka-shing. If we have a dividends tax, Mr. Li Ka-shing doesn't have to pay the dividends tax. He doesn't have to pay because he received dividends instead of salary and income. And if you can do something about it, you can get what you want. It's just that the government is unwilling to spend money for good causes. You don't want to have a universal retirement protection scheme. 2 years ago, you injected $6,000 into MPF accounts. The pro-establishment members were up against this. And then there was a revision to the budget, something that the colonial government never did. So you're so reluctant in doing good. You don't want to get the money for this, and the businesses are criticizing the government for being a poor spender. It's a waste of time. Are you going to raise the tax rate by 1 percentage point and then put the money in a fund so that the NGO can manage the fund? If the government is regarded as incompetent by the businesses, would you be doing this? Deputy Director, I thank Mr. Leung for his comments. I think the fund is not set up by the raising tax by 1 percentage point. We're here to promote a corporate social responsibility. So what about the obligations? The obligations of the businesses? They are not just giving money to charity here. I think that's all for this item, and we can move on to the next item, and we would resume the normal time limit for the next item, 3 minutes. Let's invite the next batch of officials to join us.
佢有冇第二節調落嚟啊？有冇俾機會佢啊？冇喎，即係陰公咁上佢聽。我哋熟晒，熟晒，有秘書長。上臂嗰啲 part 嘛？嚇？講啲先，康復專員，我康復專員，我記得排反冇錯。 應該坐後唔係坐前，唔夠位坐。OK。多謝各位。就
Thank you for coming. Today we have Mr. Stephen Siu, Commissioner for Rehabilitation. Mrs. Mack is also with us. And we have Mr. Lam Kar-tai, Assistant Director on Rehabilitation and Medical Social Services. And Ms. Maggie Leung, Senior Social Work Officer, Licensing Office of Residential Care Homes for Persons with Disabilities. For this item, I understand that there are some representatives of NGOs for PWDs listening in on the upper floor. Welcome. So over to the Commissioner for a brief introduction first. Thank you, Madam Chair. We understand this is a matter of concern to many of you. In January, we came here to report to you on the latest progress of the implementation of a licensing scheme for RCHDs. The grace period is going to expire soon, so we are here to report the latest progress to you. The relevant ordinance came into operation on the 18th of November 2011, except Part 2 on sanctions for operating an RCHD without a license or certificate of exemption. And for that part, there was a 18-month grace period so that homes can make suitable arrangements to apply for a license or a certificate of exemption. In the meantime, SWDs will be handling the processing of licenses and certificate of exemption. The grace period is going to expire. To tie in with the full implementation of the licensing scheme, the SLW has published a notice designating that Part 2 will come into effect on the 10th of June this year. At that point, anyone who operates an RCHD without a valid license or certificate of exemption will be prosecuted. In fact, the notice was gazetted on the 12th of April, and the relevant legislative brief was circulated to members last week. And this particular notice will be scrutinized by legislative this month. As at the 1st of April, we still have 316 RCHDs in the territory involved, including 78 private RCHDs, 270 subvented RCHDs, and 21 self-financing RCHDs operated by NGOs. The SWD has received applications from 310 RCHDs, of which 276 RCHDs have been issued with licenses or certificate of exemption. For the remaining, the SWT is processing their applications in earnest, and it's hoped that before the end of grace period, all eligible RCHDs will be issued with licenses or certificates of exemptions. And there are also other measures to tie in, including the pilot board play scheme. We have purchased 245 board play scheme places from 6 private RCHDs. We will continue to buy more from quality homes. And before the end of the pilot scheme, there will be a full review concerning the maximum limit, the cost of buying places, and so on. We also rolled out the subvention schemes, the subsidy schemes to help homes to get improved in relation to the building safety and fire safety installations. I know members are concerned that with the full implementation of the licensing scheme, what would happen to those who are living in RCHDs, particularly private RCHDs. SWT colleagues have been monitoring the situation closely, especially the situation with RCHDs which have not been issued with licenses. At present, only 7 have not put in their applications. Some are already vacant or with a few residents remaining. Many have made arrangements to reserve places in other RCHDs, and these residents will be moved to other RCHDs in due course. The occupancy rate in private RCHD stands at about 70%, so there are sufficient places in existing RCHDs to accommodate these residents. So there will be no significant impact for these residents. We'll monitor the situation closely. We've informed relevant SWT service units, and if necessary, more assistance will be provided. That's all for my introduction. Thank you, Commissioner. Members, we adopt the normal time limit. I understand many members are concerned about this. So far, 8 members have indicated their wish to speak, and me included, there are already 10 members, so 3 minutes each. First one to speak is Mr. Alan Leung. Thank you, Madam Chair. In 2011, when the Residential Care Homes PWD ordinance was enacted, the civil party already expressed concerns that many such homes might not have money to do the necessary conversion, and they would close down, and the residents will have nowhere to go. So we expressed our worries very early, and now from the Commissioner, I'm not as optimistic. I'm even more worried here. I hope the Commissioner can further explain. You offer them exemptions. For how long would the exemption be valid? It's done on a case-by-case basis, right? It's not that they would all be giving the same exemption period. So what is the longest exemption period? And I would like to know that once the exemption period expires, and in the meantime, the homes do not have the money to improve so as to comply with the ordinance, how many such homes would fall into this category? How many places will be lost by this?
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Leung, for your question. As we say in the paper, in order to help hostels provide or upgrade their facilities, we will provide a subsidy scheme to subsidize 60% of their upgrading costs. And based on members' suggestions last time, we've also arranged to introduce small and medium enterprises loan to hostels or homes in need of financial support. As for exemptions, the period of exemptions, it really depends on how much a home can do. Most cases, they actually have yet to comply with the fire escape facilities and accessibility facilities. Well, Chairman, what is the shortest and longest exemption period? How many homes fall into each category? And your estimate is by the end of the exemption period, how many places will be lost? If you can't give us an oral reply, please let them know in writing. Well, I can tell you that the exemption period lasts from 12 to 18 months. Why do we give them exemption period? Because most of the homes can upgrade their facilities. So if they know what they need to improve, and quite a number of them will apply for subsidy to carry out the additional upgrading work. So there have been zero loss of places. Well, I think ultimately some homes will make their own decisions, the commercial decisions, but based on our experience in the past 2 years, quite a number of them actually, should it have some facility problems, they'll just move to another premises to continue their operations. I think next one is Poon Xiuping. Yeah, following up on Mr. Leong's question. Just then, the Commissioner says that, as mentioned in the paper, there are 310 homes, LHDs, and 310 actually have applied for the licenses, and 276 have been given the exemption certificates and licenses. Of these 276 homes, which were given a license and which were given a certificate of exemptions, and 6 of them, actually, I don't know what will happen to them, but 6 didn't apply. But what's the reasons why 6 didn't apply? And also, for the 78 private homes, how many of them had applied for the license? And how many were having their applications being processed? Thank you. In the paper, that's mentioned that of the 276 LHDs, 14 were given licenses and 262 were given COEs. We need to make sure that they enhance the facilities, fire escape facilities, and accessibility facilities to statutory standards. So that's what homes are required to do, and we need to give them time to upgrade these facilities. So quite a number of them are now falling into the category of applying for CO or having been given the COEs. But I'm quite confident that most of them should be able to meet the requirement in the end. And of the private homes mentioned, 7 have yet to make the applications. From what I know, these 7 of them actually are not offering many places. Sometimes these parameters are just considering how to make commercially viable decisions. I think these 7 homes actually are only providing, for example, about 50 odd places. So in other words, if these 7 homes do not apply for the licenses, then the 50 odd residents can be moved to other homes? Yes, my understanding is that basically our colleagues have reserved places for these residents, and I know that some of these homes are linked to other homes. Next one is Tam Yu Chung. Chairman, as for the private homes, I was there myself. These private homes, the conditions are quite bad. If they were to comply with the licensing requirements, they would need to spend quite a lot on upgrading their facilities. Even though that you're providing them with subsidy, I think the government needs to consolidate your experience and look at why it takes so long for them to make improvements. And you might need to provide more financial support for these homes. And there are also, sometimes structural problems. Like, it can cost a lot to bring in the standard fire escape facilities. Even if you lend them money, the homes will just, may have to close if they're not given exemptions. So you might need to provide timely help so as to get these homes to continue the operations. The purpose of giving licenses is not to make these homes closed. The purpose instead is to help these homes enhance their facilities. And during the process, we can see how we can help them comply with statutory requirements. We can't say, because they're private, the government cannot help too much or give them too much advantages. But that's not what we're saying here. Our purpose is to help these people receiving services be housed in a better, safe environment. So I think we should have anticipated the situation now. We were not wrong in our estimates. I think that even though the commissioner sounded that he had much confidence, but I'm not quite optimistic. I'm not optimistic at all looking at the figures. So I think you may need to consider giving more financial support. Commissioner? Thank you, Mr. Tam. Yes, we will consider carefully your view. And we also carefully monitor the situation and the development of private homes. And when we discuss the financial subsidy in the Bills Committee, we discuss it too. We would. That's why we're giving more than half, 60% of the subsidy. That was quite lax. We know that it's public money, but we wanted to, support the homes so that they could show the desire to or to be encouraged to continue the operations. Therefore, we're asking the homes to shoulder the cost to go together with us. If necessary, they can also apply for small and medium-sized business loans. As Mr. Tam said, there may be some structural problems at a home. The upgrading work may cost a lot, so there may be a need for some homes to look for another premises. Indeed. We know that in the past few years, there have been some examples of homes moving to other premises. Next one is Fernando Zhang. Thank you, Chairman. I think, the entire market of private homes came about because the government was unwilling to shoulder the costs of providing places for people with disabilities. It's not that I object to private homes, but there's a room for them in the market. But around the world, private homes are for people who want to choose better quality, better environment homes. We're talking about high-end homes. But in Hong Kong, private homes are at the low end. Why people choose them? Because they have no other choices. They have to wait otherwise for 10 years for a place. We are not resolving the pressing need for home places, and that's why there's room for the private homes. The staffing and the environment in these private homes are inferior to Savannah homes. So it's all because the government has gone the wrong way and is unwilling to shoulder all the costs. In 2006, I followed up on the issue of the quality of private homes, and they were in such bad conditions, and yet the government did not face up to the problem. We took CCTV pictures of the environment of the private homes, and 2006 till now, and now you're talking about a licensing system, and yet there are actually most of the 300 odd homes, including the private ones, have yet to get a license. And the licensing law actually imposes lesser conditions than the code of practice came up by the government in 2002. So you are actually downgrading the protection of human rights of people with disabilities who are living in these homes, and you're continuing to drag your feet. I heard from private homes that they know that they do not fit the statutory requirements, but they will submit an application nonetheless and try to take advantage of the 18 months grace period. There are now 7, as Commissioner estimates, 7 homes which are in such bad condition that they could not delay the application any further. I'm utterly dissatisfied with the situation, but I've only got 3 minutes only. Now I want to ask you about the 7 private homes. Don't just give them a free hand. Those living in the private homes, I'm sure the residents there are the most helpless and disadvantaged, because these are people who are not accepted by subvented homes. Please, look at the lives of these 50-odd residents seriously. Don't just let them be there by themselves. Many of them may not even be cared for by their families. We need to take good care of these 50-odd people, at least, living in the homes. I think for our experienced members who were here in 2006, the commissioner then was Tang Kok Wai. I'm sure you remember it. We will actually follow up on this matter, definitely. Next one, John Kok Chu. I've got 4 questions here. See whether you can give me the figures. First, there are 117 NGOs involved. Can they complete? How many you think would not be able to complete their upgrading in 18 months? And also, for the private homes, there are about 71 of them that have said that they will apply for license. How many have already made the application for upgrading their facilities? How many have yet to apply for upgrading? I'm very concerned about the process of application, because they need to go through the social welfare department and then maybe the fire services department, the planning department, architectural services department. Do they have to knock on the door of each department individually, or can they give one application to social welfare department alone? If they have to knock on the door of each department, it may take a much longer time. The last question is, after the expiration of the exemption period, your estimate is how many homes, particularly private homes, would have to give up on operating, and how many residents are we talking about who will be affected? Social Welfare Department. Mrs. Mack, as for the application process.
Well, we provide a one-stop service. The applicant can just approach our office and we can get in touch with all the necessary departments. And actually in our licensing office, we have officers from other departments there. As for whether the subvented homes can complete the upgrading within 18 months, well, maybe some of them cannot do this. It's not because of the works involved. Some of the homes would like to tie in with their major upgrading that they have planned. As for how many private homes can or cannot continue after the exemption period, we don't have any estimation. We know the scales of works involved, but the actual implementation will require working together with the homes. But we will monitor the progress. And let me also respond to the question raised by Dr. Fernando Cheung. If a home indicates that it's not going to be operated later, then our caseworker would take on the cases to find alternative places for the residents. How many private homes have indicated that they would do the renovation and upgrading? We have received 2 applications. Very often, they would get a certificate of exemption, and they know what items require further improvement, and then application will be submitted later. Most of the applicants have indicated that they would do this. Mr. Tan Ka-pil. Thank you, Madam Chair. In 2006, I was not involved, and I have been following up the issues since I became a member here. This is really frustrating. We know that many private homes have poor conditions, but if you drive them out of existence, the residents will suffer most. There are more than 50 odd residents who will be most seriously affected. And you should at least upgrade the per capita living space to 6.5 square meters. There are still places in the private homes. And I think the occupancy rate has gone up. And if some of them go out of business after the exemption period, the ratio will go further up. We want to build more homes, but realistically, we cannot build more to meet our needs in 3 or 5 years. So we must not be too optimistic. And please give us a paper telling us how you are going to provide for the 50 odd residents in the 7 homes which have not yet submitted any application. Actually, there are more. There are 34 applications being processed. You have received 310 applications from homes. 276 have been issued with licenses or certificates of exemption. But there are 30 odd without any license or certificate. 34 of them. I believe most of them are private homes. What would happen to these homes? And also, we want to know more details about the certificates of exemptions. How many residents are there in these homes? And how long is the exemption going to be? And what are the problems with these homes? Building safety, the planning, land use issues, and so on and so forth. Of course, we are not going to be complacent. And Mr. Leung is here to listen to members' views. Regarding certificates of exemption granted to private homes, we have 49 such homes. Members, please be succinct in your questions. Otherwise, there's no time for their answers. Maybe you can follow up in the next round. Mr. Frankie Yik. Many members have spoken on the same issues. Mr. Peter Cheung asked a question about the processing of applications. I'm glad to know that this is a one-stop service. So very soon, the department will know how many would actually be successful in doing the upgrading. Mainly, we are talking about building safety. Other works can be done if you have the money. But if you have a problem with the means of escape, the fire safety problem, there's nothing you can do about that. So you know how many would fall into this category instantly. You know how many would ultimately not be able to continue with their operations. So please don't drag your feet. This is a very clear-cut situation. Deputy Director, when we issue a certificate of examination, we would first of all look at whether the premises can be improved or not. So when we issue a certificate exemption, it means that we think the problems can be resolved. All right? Next, for the first round, I have some questions. And I want to also provide a summary of questions raised by members. Looking back to the 2006 experience, in the last term, I was not here, and that there were people following up the issues. I want to tell the Deputy Director and the Commissioner, I think members are here are talking about one thing. They are not trustful. They don't think you can solve the problems. And Mr. Frankie Yik raise a different issue, but the problem still boils down to one of lack of trust. So, Commissioner and Deputy Director, how can you persuade members here who represent different parties? Back then, things were very difficult. There were photos published in the newspaper pointing to the very poor environment of these homes. And now you have lowered the standards for compliance, and still we have so many problems. Many parties have raised doubts about the availability of solutions. So how are you so confident that you can handle and resolve the problems? We have some people in the gallery representing private homes. Don't regard them as just private businesses. They're offering social service. So how can you facilitate development? So perhaps you can respond to this overriding question. Let me say something about the development of homes, and then I would ask the Deputy Director to supplement. We are also concerned about quality of RCHDs. That's why we implemented this licensing system. It's hoped that through a licensing system, we would at least ensure that the environment in these homes will be acceptable. We have to adopt a multi-pronged approach. Of course, in the May, we will try to provide more sub-rented places. So the first thing to do is to build more sub-rented homes. That's the May battle. At the same time, we would also encourage the self-financing sector. And we have been working with NGOs to do conversion or to do more projects to provide more services. We also hope that we can improve private homes by having more bought places. We have bought some 200. We are going to review the scheme by looking at the price and the upper limits of number of places in each home. Mr. Tan Ka-pil, there are 34 applications being processed. You still have 1 month or so left. So what is going to happen? Of the 34 applications, 16 are sub-rented or self-financed homes, and 16 are private homes. In the remaining period, we would handle the applications expeditiously. You're talking about just over a month. Are you going to give them all, or give all these homes certificates of exemption, or what? Most of them have been given licenses or certificates of exemption. So they are just trying to postpone the end. Are you going to give them a certificate of exemption as long as they apply for it? I'll defer this question to Mr. Lam. For these 34 homes, they have submitted their applications. For some of them, we need to get supplementary information concerning the homes and the building plans. Some have yet to furnish full information in terms of documentations and building plans, so that we can make a decision whether a license or a certificate of exemption can be issued. Our licensing office would step up our efforts in the remaining period of the grace period. Mr. Tang, I hope that they can give us a report on the contents of the certificates of exemption. And what about the 7 remaining RCHEs and the 50-odd residents there? Can they give us a report? well, they should solve the problems, not just give us a report. I don't think Mr. Tan Ka-piu and other colleagues would accept your report if you cannot really handle this properly. Mr. Peter Zhang, according to the Commissioner, some NGOs may not be able to complete all the works required in the 18 months allowed. Some may have to exceed the 18 months allowed. Well, this is understandable. We're talking about doing something in situ, the expansion in situ, and not trying to move the residents out first. What about the 60 private homes who have not yet submitted expansion proposals? And if they submit their applications late, they may need more than 18 months. Can you adopt a more generous approach for them? The commissioners would like to get more bought places. We are not happy with the low number, only 300 places, and only 200 odd are now available. And the maximum is to buy half of the places in the home. You're requiring them to fulfill higher standards. In other words, not 6.5 square meters, but 8 square meters, so they can only accommodate fewer residents. So by buying their places, you're reducing the number of places. And they need to increase the fees for the remaining 50% of their places. I don't know whether you're helping them or you are doing them a disservice. You should buy 50 to 60% of the places so that at least they won't be incurring losses. Maybe I can get some answers for these questions first.
On the issue of buying places, we are actually trying to buy places, in quality homes. The 200 something number is not fixed. We'll continue to buy places. And also, as I said, whether we should increase the ceiling, we will actively consider that, and depending on the actual market situation. On the exemption of certificate of exemption, in principle, SWD would look at the actual time required by home for the works. So we need to see whether the home has taken concrete action and reasonable grounds to extend the period. Fernando Zhang. Thank you, Chairman. I think the law now is really lax. First, it offers a grace period, 18 months, in which homes that are not in compliance with the statutory requirements can actually make improvements. And also, if the home was built before the law came into effect, they were entitled for an exemption certificate that can last up to 30 odd months, or as set by the department, 18 months. But the law has been in effect for almost 18 months. Of the 300 something homes, only 14 were given licenses. 8 of them were privately run. There were 70 odd private homes. 8 of them were given licenses. 18 months is about to pass. How much longer do we have to wait? The law now allows them to apply for the exemption certificates for an indefinite number of times. So, of the 300 odd private and subvented homes, by when would all of them be given licenses? Or if they're not given licenses, that they will be forced to vanish from the market. Can you give us a timetable, a clear timetable? Commissioner? On the 18-month exemption period, as I said, the director has issued a notice stating that June 10th, will be the effective date of the second stage. After then, there will no longer be any exemption period. And also, for the duration of exemption certificate, is legally valid for 36 months. But in practice, the director of social welfare will see how much or how many months a home requires. For application and extension of certificates they are not processed automatically. It all depends on whether the SWT thinks that the home has an actual need and whether the home has taken concrete action to try to comply with the requirements. All these are factors considered before an exemption is given. So at this stage, we can't estimate how many homes would have their exemption period extended. But I can guarantee you that the SWT will be very, very stringent. Well, Chairman, I hope that he can give me a more concrete answer. Because the law came into effect in November 2011. So at least the operator of a home or all operators should be expected to comply with the law within 3 years. Can you come up with such a requirement? If you don't set a ceiling, then that means that homes can apply for exemption indefinitely. Commissioner, now we are giving a period of 12 to 18 months, and that shows that we're not fully utilizing the 36 months period. Our hope is that the homes can try to improve their facilities and get a license as soon as possible. The new ones have to get a license no matter what. So even for some subvented homes, they can now carry out some large-scale renovation works. If they do need a large amount of time for the renovation, if they do have this actual need, then we may need to extend the exemption period. But we would not just extend the period, easily without justification. But we can't make a judgment now on how many more years are needed, But I think you need to provide transparent information so that parents know which home they can choose. I will ask you update every month the names of homes, private or subvented, their current status, whether they have been given exemption or they have been given a license or exemption certificate. Please update such information every month. Deputy Director? Let me supplement. For private homes, our colleagues in the licensing office include people from fire service department, and they will be at the home to see whether the homes can provide better facilities, for example, emergency lighting system or barrier-free access and so forth. The government is determined to enhance the quality of such homes, but the government is not the only person making the decision. For private homes, for example, we do need the. Excuse me, Chairman, Director. I think your answer doesn't make much sense to Fernando, but we have already on our website publicized the names of licensed homes and homes with the exemption certificates. I am asking you to update your list every month. Try to provide as much updates as possible. Yes, I think we're here to help you indeed, because it will be a big issue if the homes are not up to standard. Well, thank you, members, for your cooperation. So we're going to finish our meeting on time. But before we wrap up the meeting, I have to tell you that recently we were at the Home Affairs panel meeting, and where we talk about the issues of street sleepers. Those near Yamate Theatre were asked to move, but we found that there are some problems surrounding their removal. We wanted to have a joint meeting, and we had a heated debate that morning between people from the Home Affairs panel and social welfare panel at our meeting last time. So Zheng Houqi was at the Home Affairs panel, and he was at the meeting, and he asked that we could actually have this matter discussed at the Home Affairs panel. This is a big insult, there's the issue of removing the street sleepers. we were talking about where this matter should be discussed, but I want to let you know that it should be discussed at the Home Affairs panel. But Zheng Keqiu, would you like to supplement? Yes, I asked the Home Affairs panel to have a joint meeting involving Social Welfare Panel, Home Affairs and Food and Environmental Hygiene Subcommittee members. If we have members from 3 groups having a joint meeting, then we can meet together to try to provide a solution to the problem. And we've asked the administration to come back and make a report to us. We objected the costs involved. But, of course, the government can just make its proposal to the Public Works Subcommittee, but we've asked the administration to come to the joint meeting. Yes, Fernando Zheng, I support Zheng's proposal. But technically, to allow members of the 3 panels to have a joint meeting, there may be a lot of clashes in their timetables. I don't know what suggestion the Secretariat might have. Maybe it's best to have 2 joint panels to have a meeting together, and we can invite members from the Food and Environmental Hygiene panel to take part if they can. I like the Secretariat to remind me. I find that today's meeting, even though today's meeting, I felt that we should write a paper to the Home Affairs panel to see what they think. I think there's still room for finding a solution to the problem. Yesterday I heard that how can you put rubbish bins and the street slippers together? I used the word reprimand in my response to the Health and Labor and Welfare Bureau. Near Temple Street, there's a car park. As you all know, that car park is always empty. So we can provide an interim measure, as a solution to the problem. There are lots of car parks that can be converted. Well, Chairman, the car park is going to be demolished soon because of the construction of the Sha Tin Central Rail Link. Well, I wasn't on the works panel. I don't sit at the Yamate District Council either. But if the Situ Center asked them to leave, then we have to find a place. We have to force the government to find a place to where the street slippers can go to live. Hong Kong as an international city is a joke. It is, I put it on my website, blaming the government for creating such a joke, of putting street slippers right there. Yes, Fernando Zheng, I agree with your analysis. I was the first one at the Home Affairs panel to blame the government. I think this is a matter of principle. We can't put street slippers and rubbish or bins or refuse collection points together. So I think at the location itself or in the vicinity of the location, we need to find out whether there are spots where street slippers can be put, or where the home for street slippers can be built. We don't have enough information, but I think the government has the responsibility to give us the information, or the land department can provide us with the information. Mr. Yik Chi-ming, I don't know whether I did not make myself clear yesterday or not, but if we can find a separate place to separate spots for different things, I would support that. But if we can't separate spots, then my proposal yesterday was to separate the site, to create 2 separate buildings, one to the left, one to the right. Instead of just changing the entrances, because there must be problems to have people living right above a refuse collection point. But if you separate the structure itself, in many housing blocks, they do face, even in the estate I live, there are flats located right above refuse collection point. But I do support separating 2 sites, and this would minimize the, environmental nuisance. Yes, what I meant was that we can discuss separating the sites. Of course, we can have discussion on that. Where I used to live, the houses were flats were quite close to a rubbish bin. So we need to make sure that we are on the right track and not prolonging a wrong policy. So we need to let the government department know, let them know about our dissatisfaction. The government does need to find a solution, because back from the 1960s to now, that was a concept, outdated concept that has been used all along. And the site is quite far away. You need to know the habits of street sleepers. That's why I had an idea in mind, the car park right behind where people perform. The site would suit the lifestyle of the street sleepers the most. But I don't object to Mr. Yek's proposal of separating the site. But on the whole, we need to let the Home Affairs panel know that we hope to have a joint discussion with them. And on the other hand, we do need to talk to the Lands Department or the Planning Department as well. The relevant government departments know about the matter. If you all agree, I would, I would consider that as our consensus today, and we would get the Secretariat to let them know. Okay, thank you all. That's it.